Yeah, well, what I learned was once we connect with spirit, and again, the thing that drew me in was the medical side of it. But when we connect with spirit, we can do it all. I don't understand why it's segmented and siloed. You got the psychics and the mediums and the healers and the pet psychics. And it's like you connect with spirit, you can do it all, the past life people. So that's what the buffet of psychicness is. It's anything spiritual. Because once we connect with spirit, then we can really have access. We have access to universal consciousness, which is anything we want to know.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. We have a very special guest lined up for you today, and I am stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey, Cosmic Thrill Seekers, I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together. Leslie, you want to say hi?
Yes, I'm your co-host, Leslie, also known as Light Being Love, an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And we are very grateful to have Julie Ryan join us today. Julie, would you like to say hello?
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time. So for our audience, what if you could see illness, talk to spirits, and know when someone is preparing to transition from this life to the next? Join us today as we welcome the one and only Julie Ryan, medical intuitive, psychic medium, inventor, author, and the true buffet of psychicness. In this soul-stirring episode, Julie will reveal how she combines intuition with energy to scan bodies, communicate with both living and deceased souls, including pets, love that, and guide others through one of life's most mysterious transitions, death itself, the one and only inevitable. Discover the truth behind her best-selling book, Angelic Attendants, and how a chorus of angels and spirits lovingly escort us into the afterlife. Julie also shares the incredible story of her journey from serial entrepreneur to globally renowned intuitive healer. Julie's Ask Julie Ryan show reaches an audience in over 100 countries each week, and now she's bringing her unique magic right here to Living Life Consciously. Get ready to explore past lives, soul connection, energetic healings, and divine messages, all in one fascinating conversation that will expand your view of what's truly possible. Thank you so much, Julie, for being here. It is a pleasure to have you on our show.
Oh, it's my honor. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So since I mentioned your book in the intro, do you mind sharing where people might be able to get a copy of it?
Sure. Yeah. I just happen to have one. I always feel like a game show hostess when I hold it up.
Yeah, no, white.
Angelic Attendants, what really happens as we transition from this life into the next. And it's about how we're surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and friends. Everybody is. And it even has graphics in there to show, where the angels are standing, where the spirits are, where the pet spirits are, all of that.
Wow.
And anybody that wants a free copy, just go to julieryangift.com, julieryangift.com, and we'll send you a free digital and audiobook version. Please share it with anybody you want, because we're all going to lose a loved one. We're all going to be there ourselves one day.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think this information should be taught in the schools. It's that important.
I just want to thank you for being so generous. I mean, yes. I love that you're just very intentional about spreading the message. And I mean, I will definitely have that link up on the screen as we talk about it and in the video description box below. So if you would like a free copy of that book, please make sure to check out that link, julieryangift.com.
Oh, and that is truly a gift. Thank you. Yes. Gift for those who are passing. I think that it's just awesome for you to share that. And, because people need to know that. I just, it really is a huge relief to know that we are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience and we have all that support. And
people are so afraid of it because
Yeah.
we've been so inundated. Are we going to fly or are we going to fry when we die?
I've never heard it put like that, but
Yeah,
that's true.
you know where I heard that, you guys, was from my parish priest, Father
Really?
John Fallon, from the altar, from the pulpit one day said,
Oh,
wouldn't
wow.
it be amazing if somebody could tell us if we're going to fly or we're going to fry when we die? And I thought, oh my goodness, that's hilarious. And so after Mass, I told him, I said, all right, I'm going to poach that. I'm going to steal it. But it's so true.
It is.
Interestingly enough, there's university-based research now that shows that 90% of people at the end of their lives see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets as they're transitioning. And there's lots of information out there about what happens in the afterlife, what happens in near-death experiences, but not much about what goes on as we're actually dying.
Yeah.
And I think we're afraid for our loved ones when they're dying. We're thinking, oh my God, what's happening? And then we think in the back of our heads, oh my God, I'm going to be there one day too. Wah. So this takes the fear out of it.
I love that. I mean, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So my mom told me the other day that when her brother, my uncle, was passing away, when he was in his end stages of life, like the week preceding his death, he was telling her that he wasn't here. Like, he could see so many things and it was so beautiful, and not to worry for him because he knew where he was going, and he could see so many more things that were happening around us that everybody can't see until, I guess, you get to that point. So that's validation of what you just said right there, because my own mom told me that, literally a week ago. And I had not heard that before about my uncle.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So it's new information for you. And here we are having it be relevant. Love that.
Yeah. Well, all critical care providers have experienced this with their patients, if they're in the CCU or the ICU or the emergency room. Hospice workers, funeral home directors, they all have kabillions of stories about, my grandma, was seeing her deceased dad who'd been dead for 80 years because he died when she was a child. And everybody thought grandma was hallucinating. Well, it turns out grandma's not hallucinating. Grandma can actually see it. And I think what's going on, Justin, to your point with your uncle earlier, is that as we're getting close to our departure, everybody goes to heaven, first of all. There was a movie out in the 80s, All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yes.
All people go to heaven, too. Do you remember that movie?
That is my first memory of a movie, and I cried like a boohoo little girl because she got to say goodbye to her dog when he died, and I didn't get to say goodbye to mine when she died, so I was in my feels about it.
Yeah. But what I believe is happening is that we're losing the, that's just my imagination kind of a thing, that can't be true, because at the end of life, all that stuff doesn't matter. We don't care what somebody thinks about us. We don't care. You can't take it with you kind of a thing.
Yeah. And
so I think we lose the resistance to not thinking that this is real or seeing things, and it's almost as if we have one foot in the spirit world and one foot in our human reality simultaneously.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly what he was saying that he was experiencing.
Yeah. I mean, I think our consciousness or spirit, can go anywhere, basically. But it seems like in the dying experience, it's all like in the room. Like this whole the reality is right there in the room with everyone.
Right.
And that seems like the people who have like shared death experience.
Oh my God. I was literally just thinking that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's how, I don't know, somehow it's like all coming together, like they're all just jumping in that one.
Well, I've come up with what I call the 12 phases of transition, and it's how the angels and the deceased loved ones and pet spirits are the configuration that they form. And as the configuration changes, they're getting closer and closer to death. Now, I've done this thousands of times with clients and with their families. And so that's what angelic attendance is about. And near the end, it's, excuse me, interesting, because it's as if the walls on the side and the back go away. And there are tens of thousands of spirits there to welcome the person to heaven. I call them the Welcome to Heaven Committee. And they look like dots on the horizon. And the funniest thing about it is they're dressed in period costume, like you got cave people and Renaissance people and, mini skirts and go-go boots from the 60s and disco people. And yeah, it's really funny. Mm-hmm.
I guess you think that's each of their own personal preference on how to because from my understanding, in spirit, you can take whatever form you want. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I've learned, I guess, or come to understand is, or they can appear, however they're familiar to a certain person that's still in the physical or whatever.
Right. Well, it's been my experience, Leslie, that the family members appear in a way that I or one of my graduates of my class can describe them so the family knows who that person's spirit is. It's grandma, it's Uncle Joe, it's whoever. Same with the dogs and the animals. But I believe that the spirits that are showing up in period dress are representing themselves in the lifetimes in which they shared with the person who's dying. So perhaps somebody from the Renaissance age was a family member or a colleague or a friend. Or
in another lifetime?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
From all the lifetimes.
That does make sense. So every different type of representation is a past life that they've had. Oh, you just
that is awesome.
Yeah. I've never heard that before. I love that.
We get to see all this stuff, and I always say, I didn't make this stuff up. I'm not that creative. Yeah. Yeah. But I'll say, okay, there's a woman here and she's got white hair and she's got a bun on the back of her head. She's got her hair pulled back in a bun and she's got on a light blue sweater and it buttons up the front with pearl buttons. And they'll say, oh, that's Grandma Annie. And I'll say, okay. Right. And there's a horse here, or there's a collie, or there's a bunny, or there's a cow. And they'll say, oh yeah, Grandma grew up on a farm. Those were her animals.
So how do you get the message? Is it all visual, or do you have other what is it? The
clairs.
Clairs, yeah.
Yeah, it all comes in at once just because I've been doing it so long, because I've been doing it for 30 years, but not as a business, as my profession. That's just less than 10 years, about 7 or 8. But it comes in visually. I get what I call divine downloads, which they would call that direct knowing, or I don't know what the different clairs are. Clairvisual, I get clairaudient. I hear things, I know things, I see things, I feel things. It kind of all mushes together once you do it and get good at it. And everybody has the ability to do this stuff, you guys.
Right.
Oh, can you speak on that?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have dead people chasing me when I was a kid, let alone what I would have done with that information. I learned how to do all this stuff. Yeah. And how that worked was, as you mentioned, I am an inventor of surgical devices sold throughout the world, Allie, and former manufacturer of them. And so I was always interested in healing things. And a friend of mine 30 years ago gave me a book called Anatomy of the Spirit, written by Carolyn Mace. Leslie, you know that book.
Gosh,
yeah. And Carolyn Mace, the author, calls herself a medical intuitive. And I thought, well, what the heck is that? I'd never heard that name before, that term. So I read her book. And back then, we didn't have the internet yet. So I went to a Barnes and Noble bookstore to see what else I could find, because I thought they're going to have more woo-woo stuff than my library, most likely. So I found a book called Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan, who was a former NASA physicist who parlayed very complex quantum physics principles into understandable English for the non-scientific mind. That would be me.
Okay.
And she used quantum physics principles and energetic healings to help people heal. And so I still wanted to know more. So I called her school and I said, you guys got anybody teaching this stuff in my area? And lo and behold, they did. And so I studied with one of their graduates for 6 years. and studied both energetic healing and Kabbalistic healing, which is ancient Jewish mysticism. And that was 30 years ago. And at the time it was so funny, you guys, because my family and friends were saying, well, why are you doing this? I was like, I don't know. They said, well, what are you going to do with it? I said, again, I have no idea. And, here I am now teaching it. But it's
awesome.
greatly condensed from 6 years into a weekend, how I teach it now, because we've just, I was 40 years ago when she developed that, 45 years ago when Barbara Brennan developed all of those, that curriculum. And, it's kind of like I use the analogy of we used to use carrier pigeons, and then we went to the Wells Fargo wagon, and then we went to the mail, and now we just communicate instantly, with emails and texts and things like that.
Right. So you call yourself a buffet of psychicness. I love that. That's like the cutest thing ever. Can you give us like a preview of what's on that buffet? What's on the menu?
Yeah. Well, what I learned was once we connect with spirit, and again, the thing that drew me in was the medical side of it. But when we connect with spirit, we can do it all. I don't understand why it's segmented and siloed. You got the psychics and the mediums and the healers and the pet psychics. And it's like you connect with spirit, you can do it all, the past life people. So that's what the buffet of psychicness is. It's anything spiritual. Because once we connect with spirit, then we can really have access. We have access to universal consciousness, which is anything we want to know. We think Chat GPT is good. Just ask the spirits and beyond. They'll give you even more information.
I love that. I mean, AI is getting so popular, and it just kind of went off the rails. Grok went a little nuts the other day, and it had to be deleted and all this other stuff. So I love that. And I'm feeling guided to ask you if you're familiar with the telepathy tapes. Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your opinion on that? Because as you're talking, I'm thinking about, like, for example, the people with Alzheimer's that are connecting when they're still very much alive. Their bodies may not be healthy, but it seems like their spirit is kind of going in and out. And, we could talk to past loved ones. And, I just feel like everything is underneath an umbrella, right? But I want to kind of like generalize it. So what's your thoughts on the telepathy tapes and all that stuff?
Yeah. Susie Miller, who was on the telepathy tapes, has been a guest on my show, and she's worked with autistic children for decades, like 30 or 40 years. She's just darling. And she talks about how these kids that are nonverbal meet together telepathically on this mountaintop.
The hill.
Yes. And they describe it, and these kids don't know one another, and they can be in different parts of the world, and they're describing the same thing. So to answer your question, Allie, yes, we can communicate with a spirit, whether it's attached to a body or not. It's irrelevant. It's just energy. So I work with families who have autistic children. I've done that for many years, and we can communicate with those children telepathically. And same with people who are in a coma, or people at the end of their lives, or somebody that has Alzheimer's or dementia, same thing. It's just talking with their spirit. My spirit talks to their spirit. And it's just another form of communication that we all have access to. And really, if you look back at the indigenous cultures, like the Aboriginal culture in Australia, they've been using telepathy and long distance communication across thousands of miles for millennia. So this is not new.
Right.
I love that ancient wisdom is coming back, because, like, when I was growing up, I didn't know about any of this stuff. If I talked to my parents about, the possibility of telepathy, they would have probably been like, what are you talking about? Get out of here with that stuff. So it's like when I first realized that all of this stuff was realer than what I was taught, it was a lot to take in, you know what I mean? But I really love that we're getting back to ancient wisdom, because I think you're right. People have been using telepathy since people have been around. And I mean, maybe even since the aliens have been around. I don't know how you feel about the whole alien subject, but
you bring up a really good point, and I was going to mention that. I mean, the aliens communicate telepathically.
Sure do.
And we all communicate telepathically, whether we acknowledge it or not, because every one of us has had more than one situations in our lifetimes where we think of somebody and they either call us or text us or email us, or we run into them and we say, what a coincidence. I was just thinking about you this morning and here you are. I mean, Justin, you've had that?
Absolutely.
I had that with the insects, because actually I'm moving from my location. I'm about to move across the country, basically. But so we're gonna miss, or I was thinking of the frogs and the cicada and all that, and I'm like listening to them every night, which, I mean, you can't help but hear them because they're just so loud or whatever. But you know, I actually enjoy that sound, and I'm just thinking that it might not be there anymore. And so, like, literally 10 minutes later, a cicada flew onto my porch and was just being all crazy. And unfortunately, I mean, I know their life cycle, and which is wild. I don't know if you guys know, but cicadas' life cycle, they will be underground for up to 17 years before they emerge with their wings. But anyway, and then their life cycle, once they are, you know, fly, is not very long. But yeah, I found it, and it was, you know, unalive on my porch the next day. But I found it very something. It was like a sign, significance. You know, it was communication through spirit, through this to me. You know, and it was just. That's kind of far-fetched, maybe, for some.
I mean, maybe telepathically, maybe they heard your telepathic appreciation for them and were like, "Hey, let's just give her a little sign."
I almost want to keep it. That seems kind of weird, but so I haven't gotten rid of it yet. But I don't know if I should keep it or not. What do you guys think?
Did you? I'm looking it up right now, because what's the spiritual significance of cicada?
I love that you are doing that. Yeah. We do that all the time.
Oh yeah, me too. Because that's a sign. It was absolutely a sign, Leslie. And so here we go. I'm looking it up. Let's ask the Google. Here we go. Animal symbolism. I got to put on my glasses because this is little print. Hang on.
Cicada is a CI.
Themes of resurrection, immortality, personal transformation, and renewal.
Personal transformation, girl. You're about to be somewhere else.
You're about to be somewhere else. Their unique life cycle, where they emerge from the earth after years underground, strongly connects them with rebirth and the cyclical nature of life.
Wow.
Synchronicity. There you go.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, aliens are telepathic, animals are telepathic, people are telepathic, plants and landscapes are telepathic. Like I feel like this, just like you said earlier, Julie, I feel like this stuff should be taught in schools. Like, why did I have to discover this and trip upon it on my own when I'm in my 30s? Like, I wish I'd have been taught this from the get-go.
And everybody has some kind of experience where, you know, they've felt that somebody was about to call them, and then they do.
Yeah, that's like,
you know, or somebody's about to be at the door, and then there's a knock on the door. You know, and the same thing with animals, with dogs specifically. Most of them can tell when their person is coming home. You know, even before the person, you know, gets to the house.
Shout out Rupert Sheldrake, who wrote that book.
I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm pretty sure anybody can feel like the energy of a space or a person, and kind of get a download of exactly where they're at, how they're feeling, you know, like, and you just know that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and Justin, to your point too, I don't know if you guys have ever seen an animal, a dog or a cat, where they're just laying there and all of a sudden it's like their head's turning and they're watching somebody cross the room. And you're thinking, okay, I don't see anybody, but obviously this animal does. And they're not upset about it normally, but you can watch their little heads move.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Babies too, like little ones, little toddlers do the same thing.
I haven't seen that, but I would imagine. Yeah, because all kids come in with the ability. Justin just brought his cat in. All kids come in with the ability, and then their grown-ups say, "Oh, honey, that's just your imagination. That's not really true."
Yeah, it kind of cuts it off. And Allie, what you were saying, you know, you wish, you know, but it's a good thing that we are now, and I'm grateful that we have, you know, at some point in our life come out of the programming of, you know, whatever our parents brought us up to try to think or whatever. And religions and whatnot, I guess was where I was going with that. But what was I gonna say?
You were talking about kids and how they're really in tune with spirit. I think that's where you were going.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna let it go.
The interesting thing about it too, and see if this resonates with you guys, is I think a lot of the old guard is dying off, frankly.
That's what I was gonna say. You just did your stuff on me, didn't you?
I'm a psychic person. Yeah. But
yeah, like our
off.
kids are gonna know. That's what my kids are gonna know, you know,
Because
like
they're not
already
being taught that it's evil and it's wrong and it's, that kind of nonsense. And people are afraid of what they don't understand. If somebody doesn't understand something, they immediately go into fight or flight, and we lose clarity because the blood drains from our head, goes to our heart and our extremities so we can run away from whatever it is we're fearing, even if we're running late for a meeting or something. But these kids are not... They're not inundated with all the, fire and brimstone. Well, you're going to go to hell if you talk to spirits. That's nonsense. The whole Bible and all the religious texts are all full of people talking with angels and spirits and getting divine guidance and all of that.
And I also feel like there's a lot of what can be perceived as UFOs in a lot of like religious artwork. There's a scene where they're outside and there's just like literally like 12 or like more than a dozen what appear to be UFOs. And then they have other ones where it looks like there's somebody inside of a starship. And I mean, it's like, I feel like it's all right there playing in
like that's
on the walls,
like it's been covered up within the religious communities or something. Is that what you're basically?
No,
the theory out there about that, I guess. I don't know.
That's not the train of thought I was on. I was just basically saying that UFOs have been depicted in religious art.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Can you, like what?
Yeah, I'll put the pictures up as we're talking about it. I'll email them to you so you can see them. And I have like literally a whole folder full of them.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. I wasn't aware of that.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I'm sure you've heard of Ezekiel's wheel.
No, I haven't.
Wow.
What is it?
Wow. You want to tell her?
I mean, you brought it up.
Basically, there was another book, the Book of Ezekiel, I guess. And in this book, he describes seeing like this wheel within a wheel within a wheel, and it's just moving. And I don't know.
That's a certain angel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like or something like that.
Yeah, I think they said it was supposed to be an angel, but it's very odd looking. I'll just leave it like that.
Oh, like it could be a UFO.
The way they described it, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Wow.
I'll send those pictures to you, Julie.
Yeah, I would love that. The thing that is coming into my mind is how in the religious artwork by the old masters, many of the saints and angels and all of them have halos around their heads or around their whole bodies.
Yeah.
And that's their energy field. It's their aura. It's their spirit, which is the power source for the body. I was taught in 12 years of Catholic schools that the spirit is someplace in the chest area. But what I perceive is that the spirit's the main part of us and the body's inside the spirit.
Yes.
Why when somebody dies and their spirit and their body separate, the body doesn't work anymore because it's lost its power source. So I believe that the old masters who were doing those paintings way back when, they could perceive that energy field. And that's what we're testing in our hospitals today, EEGs, EKGs.
Yeah.
What are they doing? They're getting the energy outside of the body.
Yeah. Same thing with Wi-Fi and telepathy. I mean, like we're getting all this information like through the thin air, you know what I mean? And that's basically what telepathy is.
Yeah.
And there's also university studies where they have detected a reduction in weight when a person passes, and basically that they can measure exactly like it's a there's a certain number. I forgot what it is. I think it's like 6 ounces. I'm not sure, but a person will weigh like so many ounces less after they
the spirit leaves the body.
After they passed away, and that's a scientific study.
Yeah, I've read that. Yeah,
that's so fascinating.
I've also seen videos online, and I don't know if they're real or true or not, but I'll just share it with you since it's coming to my mind, where like I'm thinking of the video where there's a helicopter with a person on life support.
I knew you were going to say that.
because we're connected. We're telepathically speaking. So anyways, there was a person that was on the helicopter being life supported to another hospital, but ended up passing away. And you can literally see like a light just travel away and out of the helicopter. Again, I can't prove that that's real and that is somebody's spirit. However, it's very convincing in my mind.
Yeah, that's a good.
Well, that's what I see telepathically too when somebody's dying.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so amazing.
The spirit exits through the top of the head and is escorted to heaven by angels on either side of it.
So in the book, Angelic Attendants, you describe what happens as we die. Can you walk us through those final moments from a spiritual perspective?
Sure. The spirit exits the body through the top of the head. And when somebody's dying, phase one is, it looks like a cartoon caption bubble, like a speech bubble, where the character's thoughts or comments are located inside that bubble. And then the closest maternal spirit to the person who's dying, that's the spirit that shows up first and runs everything from the spirit world, which really surprised me. I thought God probably had like a death and dying department in heaven, and he would dispatch angels, to run the show. But it's not. It's the maternal spirit. So in my case, my mother's deceased. When I'm dying, my mother will be running the show. If she was still alive, it would be my maternal grandmother. If she was still alive, it would be her mother. It's always on the maternal side, which I think is interesting. And she's the one that calls in the other spirits and the angels and the pet spirits. And so as the person's getting closer to death, more and more spirits show up. About phase 3, there are these big angels that show up. And again, Catholic schoolgirl, they look to me like I was taught they look like they were depicted to me, as a child. Mm-hmm. Big wings, white gown, rope belt, barefoot, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they form a circle with the parent spirits at the person's foot. And then as the person's getting closer to death, that circle opens into a horseshoe and eventually into a straight line, let's say across the foot of the bed. And everybody goes through the 12 phases of transition, regardless of if they die instantly, like in the case of a homicide or suicide, or if they die over a prolonged period of time, days, weeks, months, even years. And so time doesn't exist in the spirit world. Time's a human creation. And that's how everybody can go through the 12 phases. I do have a couple of nuances I'd love to share, if I may.
Absolutely. Go right ahead, please.
Phase 6-ish, there are 2 extra angels that show up on either side of this, what I call the spirit bubble. And about phase 9, their wings start to move. And the first time I saw all of this was when my own mother was dying in 2002. And I'd never been around anybody who was dying before. Neither had any of my siblings. And it was interesting because on one hand, my heart was breaking because my mother was dying. And on the other hand, I was watching this going, whoa, it was glorious. It was amazing what I was watching. So I felt like the Lady of Justice statue, where I was balanced. With the heartbreak and the glory of what was unfolding. So when I saw these 2 angels show up on either side of my mom's spirit bubble, I thought, well, I don't know what they're going to do, but I know that they're going to play a role. And then about phase 9, their wings started to move. And it was this slow, rhythmic movement that reminded me of a giant owl. And as their wings moved, they were creating an upward pull, like an upward draft, and a vortex started to form.
I have chills right now. That's like,
and it reminded me of driving through the car wash where at the end, they turn on the dryer and it sucks all the water off your car. It was that strong. And I thought, okay, this is going to help the spirit separate from the body. And it did. And so when I was writing Angelic Attendants, I was led to look that up. And what I learned was when I put in the search bar, wings, vortex, owl, what I learned was there's this thing called the wingtip vortex that is a phenomenon that occurs with everything that flies, whether that be a plane, a jet, a bird, a bug, your cicada, Leslie. And it causes upward lift. And I thought, oh my word, I watched this. I could feel it. I could see it. I could hear it. I watched this happen with these angels in the spirit world. I could see it, feel it, hear it in my world, and it helped my mother's spirit evacuate from her body because it goes through this vortex.
Wow.
Another interesting point, I've been to billions of Catholic funerals. All my relatives, most of my friends, certainly growing up. And there's a prayer said at the end of every Roman Catholic funeral called In Paradisum.
Yep.
Said or song. And In Paradisum in Latin is into paradise. And it talks how the angels and the loved ones will greet you and lead you into paradise. And at my mom's funeral, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm really understanding this in a different way because that's what I just watched happen with her. The angels and her loved ones came, greeted her, and led her into paradise. So again, when I was writing Angelic Attendants, I was led to figure out where did this prayer originate. And what I learned was it began as a 5th century Gregorian chant.
Oh.
And perhaps it took till the 5th century till someone was well educated enough that they could read and write. And obviously some of the most learned people at that time were men living in monasteries. And so I thought, there's some little old monk that wrote this prayer and everybody'd been able to see this phenomenon since the beginning of time. It just took that long till somebody could read and write down what was happening. I thought that was fascinating as well.
Yeah. So interesting.
That whole thing, like I was literally visioning like angels standing around, the wings flapping, the wind getting kicked up, the little leaves on the ground starting to rustle in a circle.
Yeah,
like
I was like in it too, and I couldn't help but think of the frequency, of insects, bees specifically, but I'm pretty sure, cicada and what they do with the air, the sounds that I was talking about and frequency. Yeah, I wonder if that also has something to do with them doing their wings in a certain way, energetic, like.
Sure it does. Well, it causes the lift. It allows them to fly. But when I was researching it, I'm telling you guys, there are tens of thousands of articles and engineering, aeronautical engineering drawings and videos and stuff about this wingtip vortex, and every pilot knows about it. I never heard of it.
Yeah.
But, how cool is that?
That's how you learned it.
Well, that's how I learned it. And these angels' wings cause this vortex to form that causes upward lift that makes the jets and the planes and the bugs and the birds fly.
Yeah, the top of the wing, the shape of the wing is such that it creates a lower pressure on the top side of the wing than the lower side of the wing. And because of that lower pressure, the air wants to get sucked up, right? So on the wingtip, it creates a vortice, and it actually creates a little bit of drag on the wingtip. So what we've done is they've started putting winglets on the tip of the wing to make so instead of it being a big surface here, it's now a smaller surface up here, making a smaller vortex. So it reduces drag in that way.
Wow.
Was that preparation, or did your mother pass at that moment, or did she?
Yeah. She went through the vortex. So their wings movement caused the vortex, which was the upward pull. And that's, how with NDEers, they talk about going through a tunnel.
Cord. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're going through that vortex.
Right.
And then they're carried to heaven. And the other thing that's interesting is I always see them go up and to the right. And I'm like, I don't know what's up with that. Mm-hmm. But I was giving a talk one time and there was a physicist in the audience and he came up to me afterwards and he said, I I think I have an explanation for you of why people always go up and to the right, their spirit. And I said, okay, great.
What is it?
He said, think about when you're screwing a lid on a jar. When you want the lid to be on the jar, you're screwing it counterclockwise. Clockwise.
Right.
And he said, because you want it to go down. When you want to take the lid off, you screw it counterclockwise. So it's coming around on the left, comes around to the right, and you lift it off. So that person's spirit's coming out of the vortex, they're being lifted off. So it's always going to the right.
That makes sense too.
I know.
I love that he added that perspective. Wow.
I know.
Clarifying validation, I feel like.
That's right. Science always catches up with woo-woo.
After the
It
fact.
does.
After
Yeah.
the fact.
Woo-woo's been around way longer.
It has, yeah.
I feel like I want to go back to the topic of fear of dying, because I've spoken to my grandmother a couple of times, or I should say, tried to speak to her a couple of times about, you know, the whole process, because she always has stated that she's like afraid of it. So like I tried to have conversations with her to like explore that, you know, and I mean she's a Protestant. I don't know if that has any factors into it, but she just basically said that she's scared that once you die, that's it. Like she's like literally afraid, A, to talk about dying, and B, to die, because she thinks that once you die, the light switch turns off and that's it. And I'm trying to teach her all these things and like tell her, you know, like, Nanny, no, that's not the case. Like your spirit is eternal. It was around before this body and it'll be around after this body. And Poppy will be there to greet you, and your family will be there. And, you know, Riley the cat will be there. And, you know, I tried to explain all this to her. So I have a question about how we can help our loved ones transition with more peace and awareness. And of course, it would be to share this interview, to share your book. But other than those two things, what can we do to help them?
Share the book and you know, you're her grandbaby. What do you know about this stuff? You're not an expert on this stuff. We're going to believe somebody we don't know before somebody that we do know. When it comes to things like that, because she's watched you since you were an infant. You know, how could you know about this stuff? And what's happened is my book, The Angelic Attendants, is given to families that have a loved one who's dying in just many, many, many churches of all denominations and synagogues around the country. Wow. And hospice facilities as well. You know, they'll give it as well, because people are so afraid. And I don't know how old your granny is, but she is obviously of an age where she was taught some of this stuff. That
she's going to be 98 in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So it's been debunked. There is, as I mentioned, university-based research that shows that 90% of people at the end of their lives see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets. And I've done university-based research for my surgical device inventions. It's hard to get that stuff approved to even do the research. I mean, it's a lot. And so I'm impressed that there's more and more research coming out about that. The near-death experiences, there's a whole department at the University of Virginia that studies near-death experiences. Yeah. And many other schools are researching this. There's a project right now going on out of a scientist who was at the University of Arizona. I think he's now retired, but he's working with, I think, 12 or 15 different big universities around the world to replicate his studies that show that there's a 99.9% efficacy rating and accuracy rating that life does exist beyond bodily death. So, you know, look up that kind of stuff for her. I don't know if she's interested in it. Let her listen to my book.
Okay.
JulieRyanGift.com. There's a free digital and audiobook download. Let her listen.
I will definitely send it to her. I send her all my videos too, but I don't know if she ever watches them. It's all right.
Yeah. And I think everyone watching that, you know, we're all gonna, you know, experience a loved one passing and probably scared. And I just think it's beautiful that you're sharing your book for everyone. And yes, it should be taught in schools and all that. So, and I feel that we are moving in that direction as well. So
I agree. So she's part of that old guard, Allie.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's been taught some things that are scary.
Yeah.
They don't, they're like, we're always afraid of things we don't understand. And when we're with somebody who's dying, we're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be there someday too. Wow.
And you actually wrote a book for children, right?
Oh,
For
yeah.
Four books for a child.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they're called the Angel Messages books. And they're so cute. They're children's picture books. And so can you see those?
Yeah.
They've got really
I love that artwork.
My illustrators, an Irish gal who was a fashion designer before she went to illustration school at the London College of Art, I think. But I've had so many people, Leslie, thanks for asking the question. I've had so many people over the years, primarily moms and grandmothers, say to me, how do I explain to little Johnny that, grandma's dead and grandma's in heaven now? And little Johnny says, no, she's not. She's asleep in that box in the front of the room. And how do I explain to my child that they know information about a loved one who's deceased? And apparently this loved one's spirit comes to play with little Susie, who's 4, in her bedroom at night, and little Susie knows things that there's no way she could know. And because this person was dead 20 years before Susie was even born, and Susie didn't read yet. And then how do I explain to my child that they know, how do they know things from past lives that we can validate with historical documentation online?
Yes,
again,
which is
this
amazing.
child doesn't read yet. Yeah. So that's why we have the 4 angel books, angel messages for your child, angel messages for kids, for dogs, for cats, and for truth. And they're really sweet.
That is very sweet. I love that.
Yeah. What's one of the most miraculous or mind-blowing moments you've experienced while doing this work, aside from what you just said? Because that was pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, gosh. Justin, there are so many stories, thousands of them. But one that comes to mind, excuse me, is I was working with a client whose husband was dying in Athens, Greece. He was a retired Greek admiral in the Greek Navy. And he'd been in a coma for 6 weeks. I think he had a brain tumor. And so I always ask somebody when they're dying, are you ready to go? Are you in pain? What do you need? And he said he needed to say goodbye to his sister. So I asked his wife, who was on the phone with me, I said, can you have his sister come over? He wants to say goodbye to his sister. And she said, well, not really, because she's in Australia. And I said, all right, can you get her on the Zoom or on the FaceTime or something, so that he couldn't talk, but he could hear. And she did. And he passed the next morning. I love that story. Medical stuff. A lot of the work that I do is medical. I'm like a human MRI. I can see inside people's bodies with their permission, of course. And I can see broken bones, torn ligaments, viral infections, bacterial infections, cancer that's metastasized, things like that. And I had a client who's now a graduate of my class that had a ganglion cyst on her knuckle and did a healing on it. And then we went on and we were doing healings on her husband and some of her other family members. And by the end of our session, during an hour, the ganglion cyst was gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm not doing that. I'm sending the healing to her. I believe it's spirit working through me and with me to help her heal herself, because nobody heals anybody else ever. Okay. No doctor.
It also involves the person receiving the healing, right?
Exactly. Well, and you think about it, you go to the emergency room with a big cut in your leg, and the ER doc is going to stitch it up, but that doctor doesn't make your skin grow back. You make your own skin grow back. And that's how this works. And you're right, Leslie, it's them receiving, and then it's their spirit's prerogative that decides how they're going to integrate the healing, whether they're going to integrate the healing, and if it's going to be fast or slow or need other complementary forms of healing. So I believe the work that I do on the healing side of the equation is very much part of the whole healing system. Eastern medicine, Western medicine, energy medicine, all of it.
How do you pinpoint, what do you see or feel? what do you like to be able to be like so like accurate, to specific things going on?
I envision shooting I connect to them energetically. It looks like a laser beam. Like I'll connect to you in Louisiana, and then I'll have a hologram of you in my mind's eye, and I'll envision shooting energy from your feet up through the top of your head. And it will be as if I'm looking at an X-ray or a CT scan or an MRI. And then something will be identified, and then immediately thereafter, there will be some type of energetic healing that will take place. That can be in the form of something getting added, something getting removed. I watch procedures all the time in my mind's eye that emulate what I saw in surgery for all those years when I was developing products, testing prototypes, things like that. Wow. So it's always spirit working through me and with me to help that person heal themselves.
What a beautiful gift to have. That is an amazing
Well,
gift
I learned how to do it. This is what I teach.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of you teaching, could you mind telling our audience where they can find you online, what you have going on, what kind of services you offer, and how do they, participate?
Sure. Everything's at askjulieryan.com. My shows, Ask Julie Ryan, on all the YouTube, on YouTube. We've got it in 5 languages. So, if you want to hear it in Spanish or Portuguese or French or German or English, you can choose. We are on all the podcast networks. Everything's at askjulieryan.com. We are on all the social media platforms. Everything's at Ask Julie Ryan.
Beautiful.
So you can get information there.
I will have those links on the screen and in the video description box below. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like this is a great time for you to ask her your famous question.
Yeah. Julie, what is your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
That everybody really understands that we are spirits and we have a body and we're experiencing things in both realms. But the spiritual part of us is the everlasting part. And we're all a fractal of the divine. So we're all one. And so we go on for forever. Energy can't be destroyed. It just changes forms.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I love that quote. I use that all the time. I think that was Albert Einstein.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So, a lot of people use the ocean. We're a speck of water in the ocean, and the ocean, let's say, is source, is God, is the divine, and we're all a fractal of that. So,
right.
Yeah.
I love that answer. Thank you.
Yes, that's a beautiful answer.
That one, one of my favorite so far. I mean, that's basically in my intro. I want everybody to know that too.
Yeah. There are 2 things that are being persistent about floating around in my brain, so I feel the need to mention them. The first one is when you mentioned about healing the cyst on that woman's knuckles. I thought of Anita Morjani, who had a huge, I think it's called a goiter or something on her neck. And then Joe Dispenza and I think Joe Dispenza was involved. Maybe I'm conflating. Forgive me if I am. But basically, she healed herself. She was able to, I think she had an NDE.
She was healed through that with the
Right. That's what it was. Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm like saying that like I know, but I'm pretty sure.
She did. You're right. She had cancer.
Right. And I just find that so fascinating that like we're able to heal ourselves. Because we're always taught that you need some outside thing, you need this medicine, you need this thing. And it's like, It's just amazing that the human body can do that. Okay. So that was one thing. And then the second thing was when you were speaking about the Pope and how you can see people's auras and how they were depicted with halos and stuff. I watched an interview the other day with Paul Stamets, and I'm not sure if any of you guys, you're familiar with him. He's
the mushroom guy, right?
Yes,
he's the mushroom guy, right? And he was talking about how in the really, really old religious art, they would show people with a halo around that had a bunch of lines connecting to the outside circle. And he said that everybody was like, that's aura, that's a halo, whatever. But his theory was that it was the underside of a mushroom, the gills of a mushroom. And that's what that was. And he's saying because apparently they were using plant medicine to communicate or to aid their communication with spirit. I'm not sure what the truth is to that or not, but I thought it was a very interesting concept.
Mushrooms were not allowed back in this time to be picked by commoners. They were only reserved for the royalty.
Oh boy. Doesn't it always work out that way?
Yeah, it seems to.
Another thing that's really fascinating is depictions of ancient saints and even Jesus Christ with a halo, and that the halo is essentially the bottom of a mushroom. It's a very different halo. When we think about a halo, we think about like a frisbee that's hovering over an angel's head or a saint's head. But the ancient depictions of them weren't that. The ancient depictions of them, you saw those ribs that made it look like the bottom of a psilocybin mushroom.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I
oh,
didn't
come
know
on.
that.
I'm teaching you this?
Yeah.
Come on. Jamie will pull up these images. But these images of Christ, of there's many different religious figures, and they have this halo that's very different than the more modern halo. The modern halo being this like circle. This is not a circle. It's a circle, but it's a mushroom. It's essentially they're explaining that these godly, holy people were under the influence of psilocybin. I think
what we can't,
and not just me.
What we can't prove some of these ideas today. What we can prove is like the Johns Hopkins New York University study that religious belief systems are enhanced through the use of psilocybin,
which totally makes sense.
So we can argue about the past, but we can't. We have really good scientific methodology now for analyzing the effects of psilocybin, and it's profound. It's profound.
You got any of those images? Yes. Those.
Yeah.
Look at that one, which is crazy that you have to find. You have to go to us.
That's.
See what I googled.
Look at
I
that.
can see the one on the left.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, that essentially looks exactly like that.
I've never seen that.
That's crazy that you can't find that anymore, and we clearly found it in the past because we talked about it.
Well, that may be the effect of Joe Rogan, right? You could just overwhelm the entire internet with images. So,
I mean, look at the bottom of that one, in particular, the one in the center.
Yep.
I mean, that looks exactly like that halo.
yeah, that's not a.
Which totally makes sense. Look at
It
that.
does.
Okay, there's one. Look at that image.
Yeah.
So this is the old school halo. The old school halo clearly looks like the bottom of a mushroom.
I'm blown away.
You're blown away.
Hiding in plain sight,
I
right?
can't believe that I'm teaching you this. I can't believe you. How come nobody told you this?
I don't know.
I
You
agree.
jumped away on that one. Yeah.
I mean, that was a little bit of a detour, but I also wanted to mention plant medicine because, I mean, a lot of people communicate with spirit through plant medicine. And I was thinking of that documentary on Netflix, The Missing Children, where they were searching for 4 missing kids for literally 4 days in this jungle, and nobody can find them. And then the shaman did an ayahuasca journey. He saw the kids. He knew what part of the jungle they were in. He said on Tuesday at 3:00, they're going to pop out the bush. We're going to find them. And sure as everything, on Tuesday at 3:00, those kids came out the forest or the jungle, and there they were found. So I just wanted to also bring light to the fact that plant medicines also are somehow involved in telepathy.
It's the roots and the mushroom is it the mycelium? Yeah. So all that is literally, I feel like that's the main way to communicate for everything within the earth realm or whatever.
They say trees communicate through mycelium, so I find that interesting too.
Yeah, and the plant medicine certainly has its place. I've had people who specialize in that on the show just because it's part of the zeitgeist and it's part of the conversation.
It's like a tool to be able to.
Tool. That's right. And it's similar to the near-death experience in that it's a hallucinogenic experience that lets people shed all of their resistance and lets the spiritual side of the equation be shown, like what we were talking about earlier, Justin, with your uncle, I think it was.
It was, yeah.
You were mentioning. And so I always say, drugs not needed. You can learn woo-woo. That's what I teach. No drugs needed.
I felt the need to say that too. Yeah, I don't, it is a fad in a way. You know what I mean? A lot of young people want to, jump to that, which, teach their own, but it should be done in a more
ceremonial.
Yeah, or with somebody over you, to help you through it or whatever, but that knows what they're doing and all that kind of stuff. But but yeah, that we can, like Julie was saying, I mean, we can all do this with practice, and that's what she did. I mean, so.
And you can learn. Anybody is capable of it, right? It doesn't take, somebody special. Right. Everybody has this ability, and everybody can learn.
And I feel like sorry, Allie, to cut you off, but yeah, I feel like it works together with doing your inner work and all that stuff, because like, I feel like you can't really reach the levels unless you're doing the inner work, which I mean, we all need to be doing. I think it's part of why we're here, as part of the being human, is to like explore these things and find who and what we truly are once we forgot.
I agree. And everybody can do this. We're all doing it. We all talked about, you think of somebody and they show up in some way. We're all doing it. We just don't recognize we're doing it. And then in my class, people do it right out of the chute, like in the first hour, and it blows their minds. They're going, what? How can I do this? It's simple. I think throughout the ages, people have just overcomplicated the daylights out of it. And it doesn't need to be complicated. It's not complicated. It's very simple.
I think the biggest thing is thinking it's like devil or, the whole religious twist, I think has put a big stop to a lot of people progressing and parents stopping their kids or, trying not to, think that way because they think it's bad for some reason.
I think a lot of people are just scared of the unknown.
Yeah, that's what Julie said earlier.
Yeah. Well, and interestingly enough, too, Leslie, to your point, Pope Francis in 2016 issued what's known as a papal bull, which is kind of like a bulletin or a newsletter. And he said that he wanted his pastors to welcome psychics and healers because they were doing the work of the Holy Spirit.
Oh, my goodness.
He did?
Times are changing.
I'm not aware of that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that point. That's a great point.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I'll send you the link if you want.
Sure. Yeah, great.
All right. In closing, because I want to respect everybody's time, we don't have too much time left. Julie, what message would you most like to share with the world right now, especially those curious about life beyond the physical?
That we go on for eternity and time doesn't exist in the spirit world. And what we talked about earlier, energy can't be destroyed, just changes shape. So we incarnate billions of times. I think that there is lots of schools of thought that there are multiple realities happening concurrently. That blows my mind. I don't understand that.
I can't wrap my head around it either, girl.
I know, me neither. So I go to, is it feasible? Yeah. Well, I know when I get back to heaven, yeah, I'll understand it there. So that kind of satisfies my not knowing, but that we're eternal beings and we're all one.
I love that because that's how we start the show. So what an appropriate way to finish the conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this has been a great chat. Julie, thank you so much. Does anybody else have any last words they'd like to share before we close out?
Just thank you for everything that you do and spreading love and light. And thank you for giving everybody your book, because that's an amazing gift, and I, for one, am definitely going to get it and read it.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure talking to you, and I'm grateful to meet you. And I watch your channel all the time. So
I'm honored. Thank you so much. We'll call in sometime.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I tend to miss them. I think I might have caught one where I was in the live chat for a second. Or do you do lives, or what is it? A call-in? I don't even know. But there's something where I'll catch you on a video where it's like you're doing some sort of interaction.
So it's a call-in show? Cool.
On the Thursday nights,
she does that. It's
do
not
a call-in show, or you can join on the YouTube live stream and put your question in the chat. And then once a month we do a live, which is fun. And that's just call in, and it's a couple hours.
When do you do the live?
It's usually the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
And all that information's online. It's all on AskJulieRyan.com.
Okay, AskJulieRyan.com. You heard it right here. You heard it loud and proud. All right, thank you guys so much for having this chat today. And for our audience that's sticking around, please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. Julie, we do a 3-piece closer. If you would join us, that would be amazing. I'm going to show it to you real quick. We do much love, peace, and then namaste. Is that cool?
Okay. Perfect.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Much love, peace, and namaste.
Namaste.